Hello there. Welcome to BX Brew. Game report time. Let's have a look at the weekly whispers first. Foreign emissaries hold court at Greenwood. Dazzling falling stars spotted east of Wildwood. Adventurers travel east in search of star metal. So those are our 3 weekly whispers that the players get ahead of the game. On to the game itself. So, we entered the game with the players trying to exit the dungeon so that they could go back into the wilderness and travel to a town that they'd heard of. They, on the way out, they had to do event checks to go back the way they came. They passed over a series of floor tile traps that they'd mostly worked out how to cross. They were carefully moving over them, standing on the right tiles. They were like checkered floor tiles. When they, from the west, they were rushed by a load of centipedes, giant centipedes. Most of the party made it over the last trap. The barbarian, Barbar, was dragging the last surviving retainer across the traps. The retainer, called Lyle, had been previously poisoned by a giant centipede and was barely conscious. This is something that I will return to at the end to discuss some more, because I've never worked out how to do centipede poisoning confidently. It's not clear in OSE or BX exactly how the mechanic works, but I'll come to that at the end. He was dragging the guy across the tiles, being really careful. The first load of centipedes crosses the first trap. It's a gas trap. They trigger it. Most of them die. There's only one left that dashes across the next trap, which is a lightning trap. The final trap, which the barbarian and retainer are on, is a blade trap. If the centipede makes it to the blade trap, there's a possibility it would trigger it, and therefore definitely kill Lyle, and possibly kill the barbarian. But the centipede gets obliterated on the last on the lightning trap. He triggers it. Party makes it into the wilderness. Fine. Relieved to get into the sun. It's winter in the wilderness. They're on the plains. The dungeon location that they're exploring is on the plains. It's a wizard jeweler's underground sanctum. They get out into the open air. It's cold. We have a protracted conversation about horse encumbrance and riders, which again I might go into at the end. Yes, protracted conversation there. It did get too long-winded. The new players, it's going to alienate them and make them bored. So we decided we would work this out before the next session out of the game. And I've sorted it out now. I know where we're going with that. We don't use it that often, but we need to be doing it properly by now, really. Talk about that at the end. That's not clear either in BX, how that actually works. Some supplementary material that Gavin Norman wrote. It's not in OSE either, but some other stuff that he wrote. I believe it's in Dolmenwood. He makes it clearer. We can talk about that later. The party went south because they knew of a big river. They wanted to wash themselves. They didn't want to turn up to town. Most of the party had soiled themselves earlier on in the dungeon. It was the result of we had a mage who was killed exploring a coat, a cloak that was hidden. It was hanging in a laboratory. He didn't know there was a yellow mold inside it. He inhaled the spores and dropped dead. He was the only person carrying a torch. The torch went out. The party needed to roll for panic. All of the party rolled a 4, which is you soil yourself. All of them but one. It was a poop fest, much to everybody's amusement. Everybody loves it when they end up getting soiled. When you have the soiled condition in my game, if you're within 5 feet of another character, they suffer a penalty because of the noisome stench. So they wanted to get cleaned up. It also affects reaction rolls of other PCs if you try and chat to them whilst you've pooped yourself, clearly. So after that, they had a nice bathe in the it's a big river. Only the bank was frozen up. But then after that, they built a big fire and they kind of rested, dried out their clothes thoroughly, and they camped there the night. No monster encounters, mercifully. They made a jolly camp, did some cooking, and had a restful sleep. Next morning, at first light, it was misty that day. They headed north. They'd heard about the town, village. They hadn't visited it before. The guy who'd employed them to clear out the former wizard's sanctum told them about a nearby village in the north of the map. So next day they head north. It's about 2 days' journey. They head out in the mist, tramping across the grasslands, a shallow snowfall crunching beneath the hooves of their horses. They get lost and spend an additional day going around in circles. They need to camp out again. No monster encounters. They have a jolly rest. And also they come across a magical spring. The druid identifies it. The druid called Leaf. It's got a stone with markings on it, so it's been designated as a sacred place. They don't know the nature of the properties of the waters. I make it clear that I try to telegraph that they're not necessarily good. They check around the area. There are cloven hoof animal prints encircling the pond, the water source. It's a small one. It's just sort of a murky colour. They're convinced, though, that it has healing properties, and so the poisoned retainer Lyle gets carried into the water, submerged, and allows water to pour into his mouth. At which point, his something does happen, but his mouth gets entirely sealed shut. Properly fused, closed, much to everybody's terror. They jump out of the water, dropping Lyle in there, but then later pull him to shore. Lyle's mouth is completely sealed off, and then we enter another series of intense conversations about the possibility of feeding somebody in alternative ways to their mouth. At this stage, I've given Lyle 3 days to live because he can't be fed now. They were feeding him before because he was kind of paralyzed from the centipede. So now they've got the dilemma about how do they feed him. Because of the type of group I have and the type of game I play, various things were explored, and Googling was done, and it is possible to actually feed somebody from the rear end enough for them to survive, which the party wanted to try and do, but I disallowed this just because we want to keep it, a bit in check. And I don't know. I guess it wouldn't have occurred to those guys in the Middle Ages to attempt to do something like that. They didn't have a funnel, any appropriate equipment to attempt to do that kind of feeding either, or a tube. So we pushed on, and they needed to make haste for the village. Now they were hoping, it was only one day away, they were hoping they'd find a cleric there in order to help out Lyle. They keep travelling north, no encounters, no wandering monsters. They finally make it to the palisade of the town. It's a small kind of, it's not a town, it's a village. It's called Wibbleford. They're greeted by people there. There's lots of people coming in and out of the palisade wall. They can see when they get to the village, the sort of dark shingled roofs, the sort of guttering smoke rising, blowing across the winter plain. Lots of people, townsfolk, carrying containers in and out of the village. The party, this didn't pique the party's interest that much. I mean, they were aware of it and thought it was odd, but they were in a rush to get to the tavern and find out about a cleric. So they get there to the tavern. The name escapes me. Earlier in the week, if you remember, with the weekly rumours, there was the meteorite fall. Well, it turns out that the village was the meteorites fell over the village. They fell over Wibbleford. Everybody inside is excited, carrying these containers full of like a pinkish substance, and they're all saying this is Star Day, and they're all celebrating, and there are flags flying over the roofs of all the houses and shacks. They're all like multicoloured, hurried together, home-crafted flags. The party find it difficult to look at some of the colours. It's very odd. They can't. Their gaze wants to move away. So that's a bit odd. They get into the tavern. They overhear people at the bar telling a heroic tale of a party who, a while back, had saved the surrounding towns from a vampire prince who was... there was a load of vampire nobility. It was a module we ran at Halloween. So what effectively is happening, they are hearing tales of their deeds being spread. So it was a really cool moment. They were stood in the tavern and they were overhearing a trader who's come from Pindleworth, where this happened, and it's like their story is being spread. And they were stood there, and they kind of introduced themselves and said, "Hey, that's us you're talking about." And then the people who were telling the tale were all starstruck, and they knew the personas and even the names of them. And yeah, it was a really cool moment, showing the sort of dynamics of the world and how their reputation can change. And this is something that I use like a town reputation system, which I'm going to be tweaking this week, making a bit more dynamic. But yeah, I have a town reputation system. Depending on things that the adventurers do, it kind of goes up and down on a scale. And things like services, commerce, the way people react to you, the town watch reaction, or the village militia, they're all affected by your standing. And it's a party standing. It's not an individual one. So it kind of makes the individual members more responsible for the overall, bearing of the party and how they're perceived by people. Adds responsibility, which is nice. So yeah, that was good. Then they got as much information as they could about the town. They found out if there was a cleric, and there was. Now that they are known to be heroes, they get preferential treatment in the town. So the retainer was carried off to the church. Later on, they found out what was happening, and the cleric will heal the centipede poison, for free, but he'll still require a donation to lift a curse of the mouth sealing, which the cleric did confirm that it was a curse. The waters from the spring were cursed. They calculated their XP in town from the treasure they brought back to civilization. That's the way you should do it. You have to do that way in BX, otherwise you're severely missing out on the correct mechanics. You get the XP without having to spend the money. You just get it. It's a bit like those explorers stealing other cultures' treasures and bringing them back to the British Museum. It always reminds me of that. That's the kudos you get. That's the status. That's the XP is received there. You don't need to sell it. You just need to bring it to safety or civilization. They calculated their XP. Then they did look about money. This is another thing in BX that they talk about. Adventurers become millionaires after their first successful dungeon run. So this is interesting too. My players know about this. I've got other things in place to soak up money, excess money, but this one is the most obvious one. It's a poor village. They don't have the economy to deal with converting the player's treasure into money. So they might have loads of ancient jewelry or a ruby the size of your head, but either the villagers won't want it at all, or they'll trade the ruby for 20 turnips. I mean, that's how it would actually be, isn't it? So that the players either keep the jewelry. We do a thing with a sort of video game style stash box or sort of vault that they can access from any village or safe space. So they'll often just put their jewels and stuff in there. We've got an illusionist in the party, Shadow Spinner, and she requires gems to be able to cast some of her spells, so she collects them for that. She doesn't even bother trying to convert them into money. So, yeah, there's that. And what else happened? That was pretty much it, really. They started to get interested in the odd behaviour. They were offered some free food that was of a pink hue, and all of them but the barbarian ate it. So that is quite possibly going to be causing some complications. And that was kind of where we ended the session, really. So, yeah, it was a good mix. Bit of dungeon, a lot of wilderness, and then a bit of town mystery and accounting, which is part of it too. I think, as the way I look at it, BX is a set of mini games comprised of these. What do you call it? Comprised of routines, subsystems, and they're all completely necessary. if you think that it's incorrect, or that there's something wrong with it, or it's boring, I suggest that you're doing it wrong, or they're necessary and they're part of the whole sort of majesty of the game, really. I was commenting on Reddit on a post, and all these subsystems within BX, they're like parts in an orchestra, and they create this thing that's greater than the sum. The sum is greater than the parts. Oh my god, I'm trying to think of that word. Procedures. BX is it's a really procedural game. That's what I tell people who are coming from 5e and they want to try us out. I warn them in advance because it can be a surprise. So there we go. All right. I said I was going to talk about some other sort of more mechanically things. And there was several of them, but I've forgotten all of them except 2. So I'll just talk about 2 of them, and because this has taken a bit longer than I thought it would. So that should just round off the time here. So let's talk about a big one for me recently, because the dungeon we're doing at the moment is just full of centipedes. There's loads of them. There's tons of them on the encounter table, and they're also positioned in rooms and stuff, hidden all over the shop. So, centipede poison. Right, I've got my referee tome from Old School Essentials. Thank you very much, Gavin. What a lovely book it is. Thanks a lot. I've got my BX as well, but that's in the cupboard, and I can't be bothered to get up and get it. I should have, really. Identical, I think, pretty much. The rules for both of these in the books. As you know, OSE is just a gorgeous sort of reorganizing of BX, if you like. It's lovely though. Right, anyway, so here we go. Look, a Black Widow. It's very clear here. One of the things it can do, one of its additional sort of things, its asterisk effects that it can do is poison. Simple. Poison. Cause death in 1 turn. Save versus poison. So there you go. You have to make a poison save. Death poison. Or you die in 1 turn. It's got some other spiders here too. Again, the crab spider. That was the Black Widow. Crab spider causes death in 1d4 turns. You save with a poison, but you get a +2 to save against. So it drops down, doesn't it? So it's on or over for the poison save. Yeah, but we won't get bogged down in that. Let me just find another type of poisoning thing. Just very quickly. See if I can find one. Well, troglodytes. It's not quite the same, but they're nauseating stench. You have to make a poison save, or you suffer a -2 to hit. Very clear. Nauseating stench. Oil on the skin, have a smell that sickens humans and demi-humans. Save versus poison, or suffer -2 to hit. It's clear, isn't it? It's like, it tells you straight away. So anyway, let's jump to the centipede, and you'll see why it confuses me and other people in the group. Let's have a look. And as I say, it's written the same in the original 1981 BX. Where are you, Mr. Centipede? There we are. Right, centipede effect. Poison. Causes victim to become horribly sick for 10 days. Save versus poison. No physical activity possible except half-speed movement. So it's not... There's 2 poison conditions. So I don't get what it means. So does it mean that you get bitten by the centipede and you get horribly sick for 10 days instantly? Yeah. In addition to that, you will get half-speed movement unless you save versus poison. But the way we do it, you see, this victim horribly sick for 10 days, we remove you from play. We say that you're incapable of functioning for 10 days. So you need to convalesce. So it just seems weird, like you're taken out of the game, but if you save... well, yeah, that's how I play it. So you would be taken out of the game, but if you save, you can't perform any actions. You can only move at half speed. And then we do that up to like a healing spell. Magical healing can lift that. I don't know, it's just not clear. I wish it would be, you get bit by poison, centipede, you get a poison save, and if you fail the save, then you get one of these. You get removed from the game, or you get physical half movement. Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm reading it out loud. I don't know if it is that confusing, but every time it comes up in the game, I'm always like, ugh. But that's how I do it now. They'll get removed from the game for 10 days. That's what happened to the Lyle. So he's incapacitated. He can't move. He can't do anything, can't feed himself. He's really sick. He needs to convalesce and have somebody feeding him. He'd made a save, and he failed the save. And if he had have got it, then I would have allowed him to be able to move at least. And then to recover from that, if he was healed, or maybe if he had a night's rest and was fed, I would allow that to be lifted. So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't think I'm doing it right, but I don't know. Maybe you can comment if you're not a complete idiot like me. What was the other thing? Oh, horses. Encumbrance. We do like... Okay, so we when we started doing BX, I'd played Lamentations previously, and I'd used their encumbrance system, which is a slot-based encumbrance. Lamentations is pretty much BX as well. And then we played some other stuff. We were playing some light systems right at the beginning of our campaign. We were playing Black Hack. We were using Black Hack to play the game. Actually, yeah, I just bought it, which is a great book too. It's beautiful to buy as well. But it didn't work with BX modules. You're just too overpowered. It was daft. So I abandoned that as soon as possible, and we started using BX raw, as they say, rules as written. Except the encumbrance. I just looked at all the coin weights, and I thought, wow, that looks really difficult. So we just adopted, without even trying to use that encumbrance, we used Lamentations encumbrance because I'd used it before and thought it was easy. So we bolted that on and we ran with it. And then just recently, I saw the same encumbrance system in Dolmenwood. And so we just used that one, which is a bit different. It's different. It's cool as well. It's really good. Because it splits. It's still slot based, but it splits it into stuff that's equipped and on your body, sort of in belts or strapped to you, and then stuff that's stowed away in your backpack and bags. It adds to the roleplay actually, because the stuff on the external stuff is sort of quick draw. You've got access to it quickly, whereas stuff that's stowed takes longer, and you end up describing things that are in your belt and put into additional pouches for quick access. Like we do pouches of one slot is 100 coins, so someone will have a pouch of 100 coppers on their belt, and it's solely for running away from intelligent creatures. So they can just, in the process of running, they can just detach the pouch and drop it on the floor to try and distract intelligent creatures and slow them down. Whereas if you wanted to get coins from your pack, it would take a turn, which you wouldn't be able to do in the process of running away. So it makes the players describe their outfits. So it adds to that. It gives a mechanical reason to go into detail about how your character looks. It's brilliant. There's other good things about it too. So I digress. What was I talking about that for? So we've got that nailed. Yeah, it's really good. It works really well. I've since understood properly how the normal BX coin encumbrance works, and it's a hell of a lot easier than I thought it was. Actually, it's super easy. They actually those coin weights are literally for carrying coins, pretty much. Even in the complex, there's a couple of different versions. In Gavin's broken it down into a super easy, classic encumbrance, and a slightly more complicated one. And the complicated one is basically you count your weapons and armor, just weigh them, and they give you your movement rate. 80 worth of coins is all of your equipment, standard equipment, like your rations, rope, your pole. Just 80 for all of it. And then everything else is literal treasure. It's literal coins, or the value in treasure, or magical items, which is all in just a very small table, so it's easy to work out. So I keep thinking about trying to do that one, but I'm not sure because we are enjoying this slot-based one so much. I also discovered recently that I guess before Gavin wrote it for Dolmenwood, he'd done a write-up of that type of slot encumbrance with the worn versus stowed slots for one of the early Carcass Crawler magazines. It's in one of I think it's in the first or the second Carcass Crawler. So he'd actually written it as an expansion for BX for OSE ages ago as well. So anyway, back to horses. It's got speeds of horses in BX OSE. It's got encumbrance for horses. It's got like for a riding horse, it's like 30,000 coins. And that's it. That's all it gives you. And you're like, oh, what do I do with this? If I get on a horse, do I include my encumbrance? How does it work? It doesn't give you anything. How do I calculate if I'm moving at 240, which is maximum speed for a riding horse, or 120, which is the half rate at which you exceed 30,000 coins? Then you go to half. But how do you judge if you've exceeded it apart from the stuff that you're loading onto the horse. So this is where we always get to. I just kind of round it down and I say, because a party usually moves at 90, because you're moving at your slowest, the rate of your slowest character. When we're exploring, we always end up moving at 90, generally, because it'll be the slowest character. Although sometimes it's slower than that. Because, the encumbrance, the main thing about encumbrance is it tells you about your movement rate and how good you are at fleeing. And how good you are at moving in combat. So, yeah. Anyway, in Dolmenwood, I haven't seen it in Carcass Crawler, but certainly in Dolmenwood, the rules, it becomes a bit clearer. And, yeah. So, basically, it makes, well, it does, it adds the missing pieces of the puzzle that I was confused about. So, basically the deal is, I've closed this. There it is. It gives you weights for the character. So you've got this, say on a riding horse, you got 30,000 for maximum, 30,000 coins for maximum speed. We do 100 coins per slot, so you divide it by 100, and that gives you 30 slots on a horse. 30,000 is not 30,000, it's 3,000, sorry. It's 3,000. Sorry, so divided by 100, it gives you 30. So you've got 30 slots on your horse, and then what you add to that is, or deduct from it, is the weight of the rider. Dolmenwood gives you rider weights. So basically a human sized rider, so like an elf, literal human elf, half elf, is 17 slots, basically. And a small demi-human is 12, so a dwarf or a halfling is 12. So that's just their body weight. So you take that away. Yeah. And then you just add up all of their inventory slots. So instead of having them separated out, it's just all of their inventory slots. So a human is 17, and then you add like 3 slots for plate, mail, 1 slot for a sword, 1 slot for a shield, 1 slot for 7-day rations, etc., etc. 1 slot for his 100 coppers on his belt. 2 slots for his 10-foot pole because it's a bulky item, and you just add all of that up, and then you see that's how you calculate whether you exceed you're under 30 slots, so you get 240 feet speed for the horse, or you've exceeded it, and then you're down to 120 speed, all the way up to being fully encumbered where the horse can't move. So that's that. There, we worked it out finally. I'm going to tell everybody this week, and we'll calculate they've already got obviously their normal encumbrance sorted out and movement. So now they're going to do it for their horses, so they'll be able to work out. And it will be the party's moving at 120, as we already were. But then it comes down to it becomes more granular for individuals in a fight. If you're on horseback and you're maneuvering, then it's going to be what is your individual horse movement speed. If you're trying to flee and stuff like that. So there you go. All right. Thanks for listening, and yeah. I'll see you next time. If you want to come by and play with us sometime, find us on social media. We've got a Facebook page, called BX Brew, and we're on Discord, and we're called BX Brew. But I don't know how to do the linky things. But I'll put it in the video. I'll put the links, and in one of the podcasts allows me to put links, I think. So I'll stick some of that in. Come and play with us. We're always looking for new friends to play with and join our group. That'd be cool. All right. Thanks. Bye.